Recyclico, making lithium-ion last forever. Recyclico's patented recycling process achieves up to 100% recovery of battery metals from lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, and aluminum. Recyclico Battery Materials Incorporated trades on the TSX Venture AMY, on the OTCQB AMYZF, and Frankfurt ID4. For more information, visit recyclico.com or phone us at 778-574-4444. Recyclico, making lithium-ion last forever.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is market historian Bob Hoye. He's the chief investment strategist for chartsandmarkets.com. He's speaking to us from Vancouver. Welcome back to the show, Bob.
Hi, Jim. Here was our frantic Friday together here.
Oh, yeah, it gets frantic.
We have a question from Willem de Grooters from the Netherlands. It's a very technical question. Bob always likes to give very precise technical answers. So he's going to be doing some research on this, and we'll have a reply next week.
Yeah, that's it. It's the yield curve. I've been doing the 6 months to the 20-year, and Willem has found something interesting in the sort of 3 months to 2-year part of the yield curve, and we'll look forward to reviewing it next week.
Some of the headlines that caught your attention today: Brits face a 300-pound fine for burning wood to keep warm. So that'd be, what, about 500 Canadian or so?
Yeah, but the interesting thing with this, and I elaborated on it, is that the Brits are not allowed to burn wood in a fireplace at home. But the government decades ago had built a huge coal-fired electrical plant called Drax, D-R-A-X. And then they got the crazy rage that you've got to use biomass instead of coal. So they converted at huge cost this thing to burn biomass. And then they found that England didn't have enough biomass, and Europe didn't have enough biomass. So what are they doing? Loggers in the Carolinas are chopping down trees, grinding them up, compressing them into pellets, and then shipping them to England.
We're doing the same thing in British Columbia.
Yeah. So there's a madness there, Jim. and really, with all the coal and natural gas that England has, they could go back to coal. The recent coal-generated electrical plants are very clean. They scrub a whole lot of the stuff out. And, of course, natural gas is really, really outstanding. And they got lots of the stuff. So it's a madness out there. And the madness will continue until the public has no money. And then the reform will come in. So they're employing taxation to the limit. They're employing inflation to the limit, and that'll always create a bust, and then you'll get a tremendous change in what people can endure from their intrusive governments.
An example of natural gas, there's a sandbar just north of the town of Peace River, which is 500 k's north of Edmonton, where they do jet boat tours. You throw a highway flare on it, and it bursts into flame. The natives worshipped it as a natural source of heat and warmth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's natural gas. Natural. Headline: Post-quantitative easing bond losses, rising reality for central banks. What does that mean, Bob?
Well, they thought they had a one-way street, that anything they did by way of buying bonds, they would always get out profitably. Only they all got in aggressively. The whole of the world got in, and it was, of course, part of the rampant inflation in financial assets. So bond prices were inflated, stock prices were inflated, and boom, they crashed. There was no bid because the central banks weren't there to back up the market. So they lost money. And this may be explained why some central banks are turning to gold. The numbers for, here's the central banks are actually increasing their gold reserves. So, fascinating times.
There isn't enough copper in the world, and the shortage could last until 2030.
Oh, yeah. Now, copper is a remarkable metal. There's every decade there's some new use for copper. But this reminds of the 1873 bubble, where in the United States the copper stocks came into strong action, and the operators, the company operators, were colluding with each other to form a cartel and drive copper prices up. And of course, it's a global commodity, and copper prices did go up. And their mining and smelting stocks did go up. And I haven't got the chart in front of me, but I think the high was about 450 on this chart of mines and smelters in 1873. The low was something like 50, some 20 years later. So we went into the 1873 was another Great Depression that ended in 1895. So that copper manipulation at the top was very painful all the way down, and indeed, if I'm recalling now, it took out one of the merchant banks in London, Barings. Ultimately had a crisis based upon their long-term support of copper. Plus, I think they had a position in Argentinian bonds that crashed. So, we're in a post-bubble contraction. The fascinating things happened. So,
now an interesting thing about copper: an electric vehicle has 83 kilograms or 183 pounds of copper, 277% more than your regular internal combustion engine vehicle. Where are we going to get all this copper for electric cars, Bob?
Oh, electric cars are going. The fad is just about over, and the electric cars phenomenon is going to go away. So that extraordinary demand for copper will diminish. My guess.
There were protests in Vancouver last weekend asking governments to ban the mining of the ocean bottom. These are the same people who say get rid of your internal combustion engine and switch to electric. Again, they have no idea. Where do you get the copper for these cars?
Yeah, not only copper, but there's all kinds of exotic elements and minerals and metals and stuff in there that if the U.S. Current government is successful in making sure that all cars by 2030 or something like that are electric, the mines for all of the rare metals and copper and everything else would probably be greater than the size of all of the cities in the United States. Now, do these and people who are absolutely mad for electric cars understand that downstream, back in the supply line, is a whole lot of mining that needs to be done? But all they see is an environmentally pure vehicle going down the road, and what I see is a huge lithium battery that is in effect a bomb. So in the condo towers I'm in, the condo society did bring in a bylaw that no electric cars will be allowed to park down below.
Is it because of the fire hazard?
Yeah.
We'll have more with Bob Hoye right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Hoye. Bob Bree, the electric car fire hazard, lithium batteries burn at a horrifically high temperature, and they're self-fueled from what's inside. Fire departments have told me sometimes it can take 3 to 5 days to put out an electric car fire.
Oh, yeah.
It's so intense.
The fire departments now calculate that maybe it takes 10,000 gallons to put an ordinary car out, and takes something like 40,000 gallons to put out an electric car.
Oh my God.
But it's built into the compound lithium carbonate. It's a highly volatile element. And you put it all together in these battery cells, and all the time these little dendritic lines of lithium are building, and eventually they start to short out. So you don't have to crack open a lithium battery to have a fire. They combust all on their own. So it's satisfying a political compulsion at the moment. And I think that as I said, I think the electric car thing has peaked, and it's all heading downhill from now on.
Headline, households burn through what's left of their pandemic savings.
Yeah, that's just one of those things. Remember with the lockdown, all of a sudden millions of people were not working, and then they sent out to millions of people billions of dollars. So that sort of kept people going for a while, but that's all run out. So, yeah, I think that after mid-year this year, whatever positive vibes are out there now can sort of fade away, and then people can look at the real problems of too much debt to service. There may be, junk bonds are going to go no bid, that sort of stuff. So,
headline, Chinese consumers hoard cash after confidence takes a hit.
Now that is a key one. Mm-hmm. The ordinary citizen is looking at all the games that they've been playing, and now all of a sudden cash becomes more important. And this has always been a problem with intrusive central bankers or intrusive economists, is that they have this idea that when the consumer starts to slow down, they can come in with something that'll keep the boom going, but that's not going to work. So, no, that's an important one, that one. All of a sudden, the Chinese are starting to look after their own liquidity.
Headline, central bank gold reserves chart second highest increase since 1950. I almost expect a call from the Bank of Canada. Hello, Jim, do you have any gold to give us?
Oh, where can we find some gold? Well, I think back when Central Bank of Canada had been a consistent seller of gold, I think the G20 and G70 groups were whispering in their ear, we'll let you in if you sell your gold. And I don't know, it's an impression left over from then, but at any rate, then you had the problem with central banks where their reserves were no longer gold, but then whatever dollar reserves they had, the economists at the central banks that, of course, all had understood modern portfolio theory, whereas you have a 60-40 weighting in fixed income and equities. So I think you then had the reserves on far too many central banks going out the curve and for a better return. Maybe even some central banks bought some equities, but I don't know about that one. That would take a little research, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. So they don't understand what a reserve is for. A reserve is and it's traditionally been gold. It is there to kind of help out, back the currency in a financial storm. But if you're in a financial storm, the long end of the bond market gets hit. And this is where the central banks were way too long in their maturities, and they got hit. So there's some lessons being given, but there are some central bankers who are buying gold for their reserves, and I applaud it, and it's the right thing to do. Probably doing it for the wrong thing is because they got whacked in the bond market. and realized that was a blunder. So, but I think they just stumbled into it rather than any intelligence whatsoever.
And our final headline of the day, Credit Suisse craters after staggering bank run. What's going on in the land of cuckoo clocks and holy cheese? Credit Suisse, a very important bank in Switzerland, and it's been in trouble for a year now at least. And then this is just another thing. They're actually writing it up as a deposit run. People are taking their money out one way or another. You may not see lineups at the cashier's tills, but it's a run on a very important bank, and this is what you'll find. One or two of them are discovered as every great financial mania rolls over, and there's always one or two who are played it the most recklessly, and they're the first to get the headlines. So this is another symptom of heading towards a post-bubble contraction. Bob, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Yeah, Jim, good to be with you, and look forward to next week.
My guest has been market historian Bob Hoye. He's the chief investment strategist for chartsandmarkets.com. If you have any questions for Bob or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howestreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.